Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
Benjamin B., how you doing?
Chilling like a villain, Tom.
Benny the Butcher.
Benny the Butcher.
Tommy Guns.
And
Matthew Anderson.
back
The
again.
Knife.
The knife. Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
I don't remember.
I think I said the last time I was here before we started, and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Matthew Anderson, the Knife." But Ben thought I said the Knife.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
But I'm not the Knife either. It was just like a joke that I do. But now I've become the Knife.
Okay. All right.
And he's been to the gym. He's got some cuts.
And I've been to the gym since I've been here. Rock Recovery in the building.
Did the shirt have anything to do with it?
It did. The shirt had a lot to do with me going to the gym. Well, first of all, when I came in, I seen you guys all buff and like Ben like gave me, embraced me. I was like, okay, this isn't okay,
It's like shaming.
Yeah.
Unintentional shaming.
You know what I'm saying? I gave him a hug and it felt like I was hugging on a brick. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, listen, I can't keep doing this, man. I'm getting flabby and sick. You know what I mean? I got saggy man breasts. There's something that has to happen,
You can't live like this no more.
So I seen the shirt, and on the back of the shirt, there's a really cool guy on there, and he's like, and I was like, I'm going to the gym, and I've been in the gym. This is January something, 23rd. So I've been in the gym for 3 weeks.
Look at you.
Pretty consistent.
What are you doing? Are you
And my
doing
body shows it.
Are you doing like Pilates or what?
I don't even know. Well, I'm doing a lot of eating salads now. So that's kind of my gym. No, but I'm doing legs. I do legs. I do arms. I do chest. I'm trying to do core, which I've never done before. Even when I was working out, I never like messed with my core, nothing like that. So now it's like, and listen, check this out. That's a great thing. So I went to when I started to go to the gym because I've been really kind of depressed about not working out, not really getting physical. I've been going to play disc golf. I do a lot of hiking and things of that nature. But when I went to the gym, and I can't eat right, I'm always eating snacks. I'm always eating like sweets. This is like my natural build. But I do get more solid when I'm in the gym. But it really is my natural build. And then when I started to go for those 3 days, it implemented like the recovery process, the physical part of the triangle, right, is kind of what happened to me. I had that experience because everything's off balance if it's a 3-legged triangle, right? Or even if it's NA and there's a 4-sided pyramid, right? And you got if it's service, society, self, and God, then with our triangle, it's the same, mind, body, and spirit. And the body part is the physical, you know what I mean? And I was just like, man, I started working out anyway, and I started to realize that was a part of the pyramid for me that was missing. I wasn't eating correctly. I was claiming that I was doing, some working out because I was out playing disc golf and doing walks and hikes and stuff like that. But I'm a very active person. So I wasn't being active and I wasn't eating right. Check it out. So when I started to work out, as I worked out, I realized that I wanted to eat right. And it was like one went with the other. Because when I worked out and I went to go eat a snack, I was like, I'm not eating this. I was more conscious of eating correctly because of what happened. I'm like, I don't want to lose what I just did. Like I worked out, I'm sore. I'm doing this to try to get my body in shape and more physically fit, right? And more conditioned and also more healthy. But if I eat wrong, then I'm just depleting what I just did. So it made me more conscious. It was a pretty cool experience. I was like, yo, this is pretty cool. If I keep working out, then I might eat better.
Think about that from a recovery perspective. We had no idea what the topic was going to be today. Just throwing that out. I knew we'd have some rabbit trails, though, and come up with something here. But the interesting thing that I look at, the parallel, showing up to the gym made you more mindful of what you're eating. Same thing goes with me for like meetings. I don't show up to a meeting and then walk out the door and hopefully I don't act like a jerk, right? Or let the door hit me in the ass, as they say. But I really have a hard time being in a meeting. And it's funny because I actually shared about this at my home group Friday night. Like, it's really easy for me to save face in a meeting and be like a recovery guru. The hardest place to practice is outside of that meeting.
Absolutely.
For me, respectively, in my home, like, am I being the best version of myself for my wife, for my kids, etc.? The people that love me the most are the people I can hurt the most. But point is even outside of that, here we are talking all these recovery principles. Like, are you living that the other 23 hours of the day? And for myself, I can't like be a hypocrite, so to speak, or it catches up with me where like because we see this a lot of times. Like, you'll see guys in meetings saying all the right stuff, and then in the parking lot, you're like, what is that dude doing? That does not represent the man I just heard inside. But I throw this out there as well because I hear a lot, like, our clients will complain about that too. Like, oh, so-and-so sounds so good in the meeting, then in their personal life, they're a jerk. I'm a firm believer if you say the right things long enough, eventually your actions may catch up, if that makes sense.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, the fake it till you make it. Some people love that saying, some people hate it. I could take it or leave it at times, depends on the situation. Depends. But it's funny how you go to the gym, all of a sudden you want to eat better. For me, I show up to a meeting and I feel like it at least buys me some time. Like, come, Friday night, I walk out of my meeting, I feel just a little bit more spiritual and a little bit more well-behaved outside of the meeting.
Well, they say, I mean, it's the common thing with going to the gym, half the battle's getting there, and it's the same with meetings. I have to be led to believe, through experience myself. That's why I'm glad the gym is here, because I can't be trusted to actually travel to a gym. I've had a membership. I've had a membership at LA Fitness for over a year.
And he's never gone with me once.
The last time I was there was when I went and signed up. So I paid $35. I pay $35 a month to have access to a gym that I don't use. But that's good. I want to congratulate you on your.
Thank you, man.
That's a big. So you said you're eating salads.
I mean, I try to stay on the salad routine.
Are you getting?
I am eating better. I've cut out sugar entirely. Well, not entirely, but I've done really, really well at that because I'm eating like Reese cups all the time and all that stuff. And then I was like, yo, listen, this has got to stop, because I'm getting to a older age. You know what I mean? I'm hitting 40s. You know what I'm saying? So I have to be conscious of that stuff, because the more I eat, the more difficult it is to get up off of you. So I gotta be conscious of that.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Another part of that is that's now you're talking about a whole nother side of the triangle with the service part, right? Because I go to meetings sometimes on what Ben was talking about. I go to meetings sometimes, and when I'm there, I think like, okay, if I'm not speaking at the meeting, I've been through this. If I'm not speaking at the meeting, I'm not going to the meeting, and then I get upset because I'm not there to do what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, and I justify it with, oh, well, I have sponsees. That's what I'm really here for, is to find sponsees. I'm in service. As long as I'm working with someone else, I'm fine. But then I get into that point of like, yeah, what is this guy talking about? I sit in a meeting sometimes and start judging, what someone else is saying. Like, I'll hear a speaker because, you're a carrier of the message, and you're like, you want to be the speaker, so then your ego gets involved. And this is all fights I had with this journey of recovery, with moving in, and being a carrier of the message, and then finding out that ego is still there. And then when you're going in and you're listening to someone speak, and you're like, in your head, you're like, yeah, I would have said this, or he should have said that, or what's he talking about? And that's not right, or whatever the case may be. And you're judgmental, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in other aspects gossiping and saying things, and so you got to be mindful of the ego when you're in those positions. But and also I want to say that if you do hear people in a meeting, and then you see their behavior outside, and it isn't adding up to what you think it should be, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not walking this path either, because there's people that could, if you're driving on 95 with me and I get into like a little fit where someone cuts me off or something like that, then you're not going to say that I'm spiritual Matt anymore. You know, you're probably going to be like, look at this guy. Oh my gosh, that's not the man that I know. But I have those flaws too, which is another reason that I'm open and honest about those things and talk about those things on a group level at the meetings as well.
Talk a little bit about the impact that you're having in Delaware, because you're back and forth from here to there. We were talking a little bit before recording about what you're doing up there with your group and stuff like that. For a listener that, you know, is really new to, or maybe their parents or loved ones or something, and they have no real exposure to any sort of 12-step program. Talk a little bit about that, what you're doing up there.
So, cool. Thank you for asking me that. Delaware is an area where the 12 steps the 12 steps are everywhere. However, in different areas, I found, especially by carrying the message and going different places, I find that, you know, the message isn't the same everywhere. It's now the program is the same and the messages is the same as far as the program goes, but then there's people, old timers and people who have been around for a year who have substantial amounts of clean or sobriety time that are saying things that just aren't so. They're not talking about the book. They're not talking about the steps. They're talking about just come to a meeting, you know, 90 and 90, plug in a jug, you know, don't pick up and you won't get high, you know, don't pick up no matter what. And the problem is I pick up no matter what. So that's been a problem in my area. When I came down here and I experienced real recovery, you know, and not saying that it isn't real anywhere else. I'm not down in anybody's area or anything like that. I'm just saying my experience, this is just my personal experience with my area. So when I came down here and I experienced what it was like here, you know, like what, you know, you could feel the spirit here. You can walk into many, and not just one, oh, you know, every Friday there's this group. Like you can find a group in this area every single day of the week where you walk in and you feel the electric feeling of the fellowship of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And that was not so in our area for every day of the week anyway. You know, there may be some good groups and stuff like that, but my experience there was this. Yo, Matt, I've been coming around since 2005 in various different fellowships. I was going in and out. I would come to jail. Not saying that I was the most approachable person either, but not one person ever in my life since I was in recovery, since 2005, all the way up. And I have to say this too. I spent most of those years in prison all the way up until I got here in 2016, 17, right? My experience was just come to the meeting. You know, and I thought it was kind of like a therapy session. I would do like you said. I would hear some people speak. I would hear what they're saying or stuff that I knew from working programs and doing treatment centers and therapeutic communities inside the institutions, and I would learn pro-social values and the developmental models of recovery and stuff like that, and start regurgitating things that I thought sounded nice, although I didn't have an experience with any of that. And the reason I didn't is because no one really explained it to me. I didn't have anyone say, Matt, this is what you should do. I had no one say, Matt, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into the book, and this is what we're going to go through. You know, they're like, hey, here, just like you were talking about here before we started. Hey, man, just read this. Write some stuff about this, and call me. There was no like working with each other, reading the literature, explaining anything to me. And I had many sponsors. I had sponsors that had I'm not going to start naming names, but I'm just saying I had sponsors that had plenty of sobriety time and clean time. I've had sponsors who had things that I wanted because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, is find someone that had something you wanted, and I thought that meant material because I have no experience with the Spirit. So you got to be careful what you say to me when I walk in the door. So when I was here and I had that experience, I was going back and forth to Florida, from Florida to Delaware, and I was trying to bring that here to my area, and bring the real message, because I knew that we lacked in that area. And the real reason that I started to go home, or I made a decision to go home, I was doing the same workshop or group that I do in Delaware now here. And I left the group and I was like, look, I'll be back in like 4 months. That's what I said. That was my plan. I said, I'm going to go home. My brother was end stage liver failure. Me and my other brother were able to give him partial transplants, right? Because he was available for a partial transplant, which isn't a big deal. I don't want to sound like I'm some type of martyr or something like that, because they take 60% of my liver, give it to him, and mine grows back in 2 to 5 weeks. You know, it's a pretty easy procedure for me, but for him, it's difficult. But the best person that would be able to do something like that is someone that's more close to you, same bloodline, all that stuff. So I went there for that, and to also start the group. And I was like, I'm going to do the group, and then I'm going to finish, and then I'm going back to Florida. And when I got there, it was very evident, you know, and I've been coming back and forth, but when I got there, I knew that I had been placed there. You know, I knew that dude placed me there. You know, God had placed me there in order to be of service to the community. When I started to do the group and started to do the workshop, and I seen the people, you know, start to come in, and it went from, like I was telling Tom earlier, we started at like 6 or 7 people, maybe 8. And then we had this small room, and I felt what God had brought me there for, you know, and there's really no other way to explain that, you know. I knew I was there. I knew what my purpose was there. I was very clear that I was there to educate the general public, to talk to law enforcement and let them know what we suffer from, to talk to the medical fraternity, let them know what we suffer from, and also because this is a big thing. In our area, you have a lot of treatment centers. There's a lot of places that you can go and get physically separated from the substance, but there's not a lot of recovery afterwards. Like when you come to the group, I'm just being honest, you know, sorry, Delaware, but you know this is true too. You're more likely to enter into a group that is talking about, yo, man, read the daily reflections, meetings open, than you are to experience a group that's actually carrying the message, that is going through the book, that's talking about that is the message, the book, you know, and that's actually helping people to understand what we suffer from. And it's not just a meeting / therapy session, you know.
I had somebody pivotal in my early recovery that said to me, he's like, Ben, something I want to hit home with you. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous has become unpopular amongst the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Somewhere it's gotten lost in translation. And he further explained, you know how at the end of the meeting you say a prayer, and a lot of times people will say we're going to pray for the people outside of these rooms suffering that don't get to make it to these rooms, etc. And he pointed out to me, yeah, we're praying for those people outside these rooms who aren't getting the message of Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever program, 12-step, whatever it may be. There's people sitting in that meeting not getting the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's a travesty in my
Not
in
just
my
sitting
opinion.
in there, but they come there regularly.
Yeah.
They're coming there on a weekly, daily basis and not getting the message. You can go to a meeting 7 days a week and never get the message. You can go to therapy sessions, and there were some people who spoke about that in some literature too, that if we didn't start doing something, that's exactly what this thing was going to end up being, is a bunch of therapy sessions. And that's not what this is about.
So
to help people wake up spiritually it's our job. It's what we do.
I think it's beneficial too. Sometimes on the podcast, even though Matt shared his experience, I want to share I had a similar experience as well. So for those that know my story, you know, I was born and raised in South Florida, but I did go to Minnesota for 4 years. And obviously there's a lot more to it. But nowadays, every summer I go up to Minnesota for 10 days, couple weeks. We get a cabin with the family, but I always make sure I hit some meetings up there, around the cities and then around the town that I was in. And if I can find one by the cabin, I'll go there because, you know, I'm bouncing around Minnesota. But same kind of thing. I stopped in several meetings, and having the knowledge that I have now, I sat down at this one meeting that was towards the cities, and I think there was about 16, 17 guys there. And this guy walks in you could tell he was completely broken, dude. This guy was drinking a significant amount, doing meth, looked ate up, looked physically just completely depleted, dude, and hopeless. And here I am sitting in a meeting.
That's the guy I want.
And these guys are talking about their daily walks with their dogs over coffee.
Damn,
like,
man.
And I'm like, this dude is sitting here dying to hear a message. And the meeting format itself was to go around the table, you know, and each person got to share. And I was probably like the 14th person, but like it's going around and I'm watching this guy. By the time the dude that left that meeting, I don't think he came out of there with any more knowledge than he went in with, or any more of an experience other than this was a waste of time.
Yeah, man.
And I'm just speaking frankly. I mean, again, like Matt, I'm not meaning to bash anywhere. Like the guys that were in this meeting had years of sobriety, but it's almost as if it's been forgotten, like how hard it is for that guy the day that he walks in there picking up that white chip to not pick up that drink or that drug right after that meeting. Let's face it, man. People come in, pick up a white chip, go straight to the bar afterwards. Like that obsession is so strong. They need to hear something that's going to grab
in your head.
Oh, dude. They need to hear something that's going to grab them, grab their attention immediately.
Depth and weight.
Yeah, man. And looking back at, and I kind of say to myself, again, there's more factors to it, but I'm like, because I tried AA up there, NA up there, and I'm sure I played a part, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I tried several sponsors up there, and it wasn't until I came back to Florida and sat back in the rooms where I got the real message and a sponsor that read the big book to me, and it just blows my mind when I go up there every summer. You know, don't get me wrong. There's a guy here and there that'll share something, and you're like, "All right, that guy's on some spiritual stuff." But, dude, it's kind of sad to watch. You know?
It is. It's not just sad, but it's scary because we all know the fentanyl epidemic is just crazy. Everybody's dying. My friends, everybody's dying. Your friends are dying. Your friends are dying.
We just had a friend
My
die.
friends are dying.
We just found out yesterday.
I mean, it's happening regular. I just buried 2 people. I had not this Friday, last Friday, right? That not the Friday, just past the one before. I was at 2 funerals. You know, the cool thing about that was both of those guys were sober when they died, which is very rare. Isn't that crazy? Mm-hmm. Like to go to a funeral now for us, you know, that walk this life, it's almost unheard of for you to die of other things than fentanyl. And that's crazy. It's like the most likely result is when you hear about somebody died, you don't even, we barely even ask anymore. We're like, you know, OD, you know, they must have died, you know, or whatever the case may be. But I do have that experience, and I don't want to leave that out neither, because I definitely had a part to play in that. My motives may have been selfish. Me and my brother actually had an argument. Well, not an argument, but we had a debate about that at one time. He's like, "Well, Matt, you got to be ready too, you know." And I've been in the groups and came into meetings just like you described that guy. Broken, hopeless, fresh out of the joint again, not knowing what to do, open for direction, but not receiving the proper direction. At the same time, the message, I can't say that the message wasn't being carried at all. I'm just saying it wasn't being carried to me, you know, how I needed it, you know, and everybody has their own ways. Mm-hmm. So even when I'm speaking today at various different groups, and they asked me to come to a group and speak at their group, right? That I outline the program of action, just like the book tells me to do. I outline what any length looks like. I describe the step process in detail, exactly how and what the program is about. So I make sure that when you leave a group that I'm going to speak at, rather you're fresh in there or not, because I'm not really talking to the guys who got 30 years sober anyway. You know, I'm there to talk to the newcomer. So I'm making sure that they're informed when they leave, which is kind of what I went there for. I went to Delaware to do that, to inform, you know, of what this thing is really about. And since then, you know, since I've been home, and not just AA, all the fellowships. I'm watching NA like start to light up. I'm watching AA start up. And I'm not saying that I have anything to do with that either. I'm just saying that since I've been home, it's been incredible to have, of course I had something to do with it because I'm a light. Everybody that's a light and that been through the work, that takes other people through the work that God's using to do that. All I did was, report for duty, and God used me to do what he did. So I'm not going to, doubt and say that God didn't do that for me or help me to help the community. But I will say that since I've been there, the most amazing stuff has happened, man. I've watched so many people wake up. Me and Tom were discussing this before we started the podcast, which was in the beginning of the group when it started to build, and we had about 80 people in there. We would ask, how we ask, hey man, is there anybody that needs a sponsor who's available to sponsor? And you would get the people who needed a sponsor would outweigh the people that could sponsor. And I was like, you see, this is why we need you. This is why you're so needed. While we're telling you to keep coming back, we're talking to the newcomer, but we're really talking about you too. We're talking about you guys who have been through the work, all you guys who have been through the steps. We need you to keep coming back to take the newcomers through the work, because me, Ben, and Tom can't do it by ourselves. The people at your group there with the 2 or 3 that sponsor people, can't do it by themselves. There's no shortage of people walking in the door that need help, but there is a shortage of us that are willing and able and available to help. So I started to do that, and I'm watching these guys wake up, man. And now, just the Friday when I did the same days of the funeral, and I was just, matter of fact, this Friday it just passed, and I was just talking about like, there's a movement going on in Delaware right now. I'm not even kidding you when I say that. Like, from where I was in 2005 to now, and in the fellowships and what God is doing in that place, man, it's like, it's emotional to talk about. It's incredible to watch. Like, I was speaking at and before we started the book study, I was just like, man, I'm watching all you guys wake up. I'm watching like people wake up, and like, if you don't see God moving right now in our area, you are blind. Like, so many people are waking up, and when you ask people now who's available to sponsor, there's like 20, 30 people got their hands up. There's like 2 or 3 people that don't have a sponsor now. And it's just like, man, and not just that though, but watching people go into service in their communities, starting to go into like the nonprofits, the same one that you're talking about, like Firm Foundation and Impact Life, and like all these different foundations that we have in our area that are like, they're even like, okay, we're jumping on board with this. The detox centers and Net, like we have a place called Net Kirkwood Detox, and now they're like jumping on board and starting to do like all these beautiful things in the community. And it's just like, it's just powerful, bro. It is really, really powerful to watch God move. And people think, if you think that you don't have I'm going to say this, I'm sorry, Ben. If you think that you don't have an impact on your community, or God isn't using you, there's some people here in the state of Florida that has outwarmed your welcome here, and it's time for you to go back and light your community up, just like I've watched happen with me. You sat here too long, you've done the message here, but you could be much more useful, which is what I found. I can be much more useful to the people that I helped destroy in the place that I helped destroy now, especially being an I am, than being down here and being spiritual Matt, when they know me for spiritual Matt now, but they knew me for violent, crazy Matt, And that to them is like, whoa, what happened to you? The same thing that happened with Bill opened the door and Ebby Thatcher was at the door, And it's something about his eyes, something inexplicably different. And they were like,
starry-eyed look.
Yo, man, that starry-eyed look, the boy was on fire, all right, And you think that you can't make an impact. You 100% can make an impact in your community,
I want to point something out for our audio listeners. Matt said something about 2-3 minutes ago. He said, I'm a light. And if you're just listening to this, you're like, oh, man, that sounds arrogant. But if you could see what Tom and I are seeing right now, I'm going to throw you under the bus unless Tom's able to zoom in. But his eyes started watering. You can feel it coming from the heart. Like, for the audio listeners, that's what we're talking about with that
I ain't
light.
never been a light, man.
And you could tell that that heart knowledge, not head knowledge, heart knowledge. It's like, this works, man. You feel it in here, right? And I just wanted to point that out for anybody listening on audio, and you probably can't see close enough to stand up next to. But his eyes started welling up because he believes in this. And when somebody else who's gone as far down the scale as we have can see that, like how much you believe in the program, that inspires people to do it.
Yeah, man.
Without a doubt. And it's funny too, because, you know, just this week, as an example, we were talking about the people getting the message. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but for instance, I have 2 sponsees currently that I started working with recently, and they've been bouncing in and out of the rooms down here for a while. And every day, and Tom gets this too, they send us these gratitude lists, right? And it's constant gratitude lists. Oh, I'm grateful for God gave me a change of mindset. I'm grateful for Red Bull today, that I have a pack of cigarettes, that my mom loves me again, et cetera, et cetera. But with that being said, the gratitude list, while I'm not going to tell somebody not to do it, it's not the program. Tell me, Matt, where's that? Where in the big book does it say do a gratitude list? Yeah. And here's where I'm going with this. My sponsor had me do page 86 out of the big book every day. I had to send them my page 86 inventory, which is along the lines of like, do I owe an apology? Was I resentful? Was I afraid? Mm-hmm. Did I keep something to myself that should be shared with somebody else at once?
11-step stuff, yeah.
11 steps. So yeah, and I consider step 11 is like step 10 for dummies. You know, it's breaking down where really what I'm looking at is my behavior. And it's funny because these 2 guys, I literally had the same conversation with this week where I was like, you need to do this inventory. Or I didn't say you need to. I made the suggestion. But they kept sending me these gratitude lists. And if you read their gratitude list, you would think life is awesome. And they're on it. Both guys sent me these inventories for 3 days. And I'm like, now that's the real stuff right there. Because they were honest on their inventory. They told me they were resentful, what they were in fear of. And that gives us something to work with, because now we can look like we're supposed to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now you're giving me as your sponsor a real snapshot of what's really going on. Yeah. And not blowing smoke up my butt about, oh, God has lit a fire in me and I'm so grateful for everything. I want the truth.
I want the truth, man.
Because, and we talk about in step 12, having had a spiritual awakening. Awakening is about the equivalent to awareness, in my opinion. But like these inventories make us aware of what we need to work on. And that's where the whole like fake it till you make it part that I don't like sometimes is people send these gratitude lists and they're faking it. They basically fake it till they don't make it.
I get that a lot.
You know what I'm saying? I see both sides of it.
Me too. I get guys who you're like, I got some guys right now in 11-step stuff and, or even 10, you know, you get on just make some marks, man. Let me see how many times were you resentful today? Oh, well, I mean, no, I wasn't really resentful today. There's no way. I'm resentful every day. I'm dishonest every day, rather it's in my thoughts or in my actions. You know what I mean? I'm dishonest every day. I'm selfish every day, right? And I'm afraid, definitely 100% afraid every day. You know, I'm in fear of this going to happen, or whether they think, or that person cut me off. Do they think I'm a bitch if I don't say something, or whatever the case may be? All these things pop up in my life every single day. And the inventory process that you're describing, which is like some 11-step stuff, is to be more aware of it. And that's what I want to be aware of. And it isn't even about the action part of it. You know, it is too, but it's more of like being aware of my thoughts. You know, my thoughts is like, oh man, I'm trying to, you know, you see a beautiful woman, you're like, man, look at her. She's beautiful, you know? Oh man, I got a girl, you know? It's a selfish thought, you know. You're being inconsiderate, you know, and all that stuff. And then the 10-step stuff is cool because when I'm making these marks, or I'm, you know, being aware of my problems through the day, and then at night when I retire at night, you know, and I'm doing the questions that you're asking, and I'm like, yeah, where am I getting these things? Was I selfish, dishonest, resentful, afraid? Where are them things coming from? My 10th step. So it is really coinciding each other, but that is where you get the meat and potatoes. That's where I get to get better at. The more work I do in that area, the better off I get. Although even right now, currently, I'm not doing a lot of work in that area. And it makes me feel bad because I'm like, man, I want to be like on my 11 steps every day, you know, sending my inventories out and all that stuff. And that doesn't happen for me every single day. You know, that's not something that is like a regular occurrence, but it is in my head, in my thoughts, because I did it in the beginning. When I do it in the beginning and I start to do these inventories and I start to be more conscious of myself, then when I retire at night and I ask myself these questions, I already know the questions. I know them by heart. I'm just going through it in my head. Boom. Yo, I might want to call somebody. I owe such and such an amends. Did I leave something out? Yeah, there's somebody that I need to make an amends to. I need to talk to Ben about whatever I did at once, you know, because I called Ben a asshole, you know, at work or whatever the case may be, and I need to go and apologize that before I go to sleep, because, you know, biblically I'm not supposed to go to sleep angry, or, you know, or whatever the case may be. So it's pretty cool, man, how the inventory process can do exactly what you say and keep me awake. Not just wake me up, but keep me awake.
And that fear thing, like, I'll give an example. For instance, a lot of people, they get out of detox, they have a financial fear. Oh God, I don't have my job anymore. How am I going to feed myself when I get to IOP level of care, the sober house or whatever? And what ends up happening is, out of fear, rather than turning to the people that can help, they call up like an old buddy and like, hey man, let me borrow some money. And they tell a lie to get that money, which sounds okay until all of a sudden that dude that lent you the money is now hitting you up. Hey man, you pay me back? Now you got anxiety and fear there.
Where's my money?
Where's my money? Now that anxiety and fear is building up. And it's, what do they say in the big book? Fear ought to be classed with stealing, right?
Seems to cause more trouble.
And that stuff compounds. And one thing, and where it doesn't seem like a big deal, like, man, hitting somebody up, telling a little white lie to get some money just caused a future problem for you. Future anxiety, future fear. And enough of that builds up, because guess what? Then next thing you know, that sponsee's like, oh man, so-and-so keeps hitting me up for money. They're being an asshole. Yeah, I owe them, but they need to understand. I'm like, dude, you shouldn't have borrowed that money to begin with. Mm-hmm. You should have relied on the fact that you're living your life by principles, and everything's going to work. No one, if you're down here in South Florida, ain't no one going to let you go hungry in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or a treatment center or wherever, man. You don't have to resort back to your old ways. It's not like going to get a bag of dope. People aren't going to let you go hungry. Stop with that nonsense, dude. It just creates future problems.
Which is tough to stop, though, in the beginning.
It is hard.
You know, you come in with all that. You know, I've been robbing, stealing, lying, and cheating my whole life. And then when I walk into the rooms, you're like, you know, rigorous honesty and, you know, honest with myself about this stuff. And it's because I don't even know how to be honest with myself. I don't even know I'm lying. Sometimes it still happens. I'll give you an example. I'm at Burger King there on North Lake. I live right behind the Burger King on North Lake, right?
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So, well, for now anyway, they sold the park that I live in, the trailer.
Yeah.
So I lived there. I went there, and the Burger King knows me. You know, the Walgreens knows me. I got my shout out to my girl Mercedes at the Walgreens. She loves me. She calls me Mr. Wonderful, right? I just seen her yesterday. And like, I have relationships with these people. I got relationships, not just my community, but I got relationships like, or not people just in recovery, my family, but like my community. I got, you know, Walgreens, they like me, you know, the Burger King likes me, although I'm banned from Chick-fil-A and other places because of my uncontrollable emotional desire. Sometimes, you know, I get upset, but I do have that. But I went to Burger King, I got my burger, I had an Impossible Whopper, I left, right, and I got in my car. I drove away, and as I drove away, I thought about my wallet, and I was like, where's my wallet? You know, but I know I just paid for my food. So I called the Burger King. I said, yo, man, I left my wallet on the counter. Can you check? You know, they're like, yeah, ain't no wallet on the counter, man. I was like, can you check the cameras for me? She was like, man, I'll have to look at them later, but yeah, I'll check the cameras. I was like, somebody got my wallet, you know? So I go, and I pull my car over, and finally, this is like an hour later, because I said I searched everywhere, and the lady even asked me, "Did you search your whole car?" Yes, I searched my whole car. I know I left it on the counter, right? So I knew that I had left it on the counter, although I didn't know. Fancy, right? So then I go. It's a fancy thought. It's not even real. Then I go in my car. I find it in between my seats. I get the wallet, right, and I call her. And I called because I was like, now I'm spiritual Matt, right? I have to be honest and let her know because I don't want her looking at cameras and wasting time with looking at a camera, So I got to call her and let her know. So I call her. I said, hey, so I left I found my wallet. And she was like, oh, really? I said, yeah. She said, where did you find it? And I said, and I don't know why, but I said, it was in the bag. I told her that I had put it in the bag by accident, and that's what happened. And I'm like, what? I'm literally cracking up at myself when I hung the phone up. I'm like, what the hell did I even lie about that for? What a ridiculous lie. I just told her that I didn't find it in the bag. I found it in the seat. It was not in the bag. I didn't put it in the bag. I don't even know. It didn't make it sound or look any better, but I lied about where I found my wallet at. It's just ridiculous stuff, man, that we do. And it's cool that we get to see that stuff today, where we can look at it, laugh, and just like it says in that inventory that you described earlier too, I don't want to fall on morbid reflection or remorse either, where I beat myself up all day about, lying about the McDonald's bag, I'm sorry, Burger King, the Burger King bag. So I don't want to do that, so I got to be mindful of my thoughts and actions and become aware of them. Okay, yeah, I messed up. I lied about it. Laugh it off, not just laugh it off like this is a small thing, because those things lead up. Another incident was I did this job working at this lady's house. And in Florida, like, we think we got rich people in Delaware. We got like Ho Keston and stuff, and Joe Biden's there. We think we got like, man, listen, we got palaces here. I have worked in people's homes in South Florida who live in a palace, and I was working this moving job because that's what I did when I first got into recovery. I was working a moving company, and I started to move. We're moving this lady's refrigerator. She had a bottle of pills on the table. I remember this. I remember her calling her husband. She lives in a palace. They have everything they want, right? And I remember her calling her husband on the phone, and she said this: are you bringing me home something that's going to make me happy? And I was like, man, I know what that was, and I knew that she was suffering. I knew she was, in that realm, and I wanted to be useful, but I felt like, what is this lady going to listen to me or whatever? Who am I to tell her about her addiction, or anything, or reach out for help? And then, she gets mad at me, I lose my job or whatever. So I didn't even say anything, but I seen a bottle on the table, a prescription bottle, and my disease doesn't say, Matt, there's some drugs in there. Take them. You know what I mean? Go get high. It says, just read the label on the bottle. That's all it says to me. Check the label. And that's what it said. I'm like, read the label. Now I'm having a conversation with myself in my head at this lady's refrigerator. Just read the label. And I'm in my head, I'm like, read the label for what? I don't want to read the label. Why do I want to read the label? I don't care what's in there. I'm not taking it no matter what it is, But then it says, well, because that old thing that we come in with, that mentality of thievery, cheating, lying, and stealing, I had that. So in my head was still, well, you just take it and sell it, You'll make some money, And I like, and this is new in recovery. So it took years, man, of practice of the steps, and years of practice of taking people through the steps and inventory to finally realize that, like, I don't want to be like this anymore. This has to change. This is no good. This is an unsellable or unsuitable item in my stock. It has to go, So it's been a really cool journey and process, man, through all of that stuff.
Dang, I just got busted.
Did you
read the label, dude?
Read the label.
How many times have I told myself that?
Just read the label.
Just read the label.
Just see what it says.
Dude, you just messed me up.
Yeah, just see what it says. It might be something good.
I have one question. If I can contribute anything to this, which is good, I'm totally fine with you guys going back and forth. Why did you get an Impossible Whopper?
Because I don't know.
Is that the veggie one? Or
yeah.
Oh, dude.
Honestly, I'm just not that. It tastes better. I'm just being real with you.
Okay.
It's not because I'm not a beef eater. I'm a vegetarian. I'm just saying that the Impossible Whopper, I was trying to like eat better, and it seemed more healthy, logical back then. Although I know it's the same, but it tastes better. Right now, I would go and get an Impossible Whopper if I were to eat a Burger King, but I'm trying not to do that because Mr. Fitness over here,
I just can't. When you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, an Impossible Whopper.
I didn't even put two and two together that was the what would that be? Vegan one?
It's their fake meat one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, where's the
But
salad?
they cook it on the same one with the real meat, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so it absorbs the grease
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
the grill.
It's not impossible.
There's nothing. It's not impossible for it to have bad stuff in it.
It's gross. Ugh.
It is. It is.
Is it black beans?
It tastes better. It might be.
I don't think it's anything of actual like food. I think it's just a bunch of chemicals compounded together and smashed into a
It's Burger King.
patty.
That's what it is.
You know,
I didn't know that.
the
When I
real
was trying to
burgers-
eat better, I thought that was a viable choice, you know? I was like, this is probably a good idea to eat an Impossible Whopper, Tom.
It's impossible to be better than a real Whopper.
That didn't, no, it isn't.
You should have
that's
called
true.
Ben. Hey, is this healthier than a real Whopper?
I absolutely will call Ben if it, listen, I need somebody to tell me what,
Don't
what
do that.
I should
I would
eat.
tell him to get a double bacon cheeseburger so I can live vicariously.
Yeah,
Give him Billy.
and I would. I
I'd
did
feel
that
it.
last night. In fact, I went to Duffy's and got me a, man, I don't even know what that burger was, but it was good.
You should link him up with Billy.
I do need to eat better.
Billy's his coach that's
What-
training him to do
What
the
kind of
bodybuilding.
nutrition coach?
He's a bodybuilder, but he does all my nutrition for me for my contest prep I'm doing.
Contest.
We just
You
had him
know
on the
about-
podcast. So when's that one coming out?
It's coming out. What day is today? Monday?
the 23rd.
It's coming out Wednesday.
Dude, you'll like that one. Listen to that one.
So he was on here so Wednesday is coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get a notification in.
On your new
on
watch.
your new watch.
Yeah, my watch will let
It
me
says
know.
battery's
Yeah.
dying, dude.
I don't even know why, because see, they say it lasts 3 days. It doesn't. I haven't even used it. This has been at my house. I just put it on here so I could leave my phone in the car. I shouldn't have said, well, thank God we're not live in South Florida.
Yeah, but
Somebody like, there's a phone in the car.
there's
get it.
I mean, just because it's not on your wrist, it's still gonna use the battery.
Yeah, but they can use, I mean, why would it though? It says it's supposed to shut itself off. It says shelf, it goes into shelf mode or something like that.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah. Wait till you get one. You gonna see when you get one.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't want to drop 800 on a watch. Or
You don't.
900.
You drop $30 a month.
No, I ain't doing that. Buy now, pay later stuff.
No, what kind of plan you got?
I don't know. What do you mean?
You don't have a phone plan?
Yeah, AT&T.
Me too. It's $30. It
All right,
adds
don't-
$30.
Maybe I end up.
Tom
will.
still teases me.
I
I-
probably will.
Well, then go drop 800. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I still got the
$30
trap
a
phone
month?
plan.
Huh?
I still have the trap phone
Do you?
plan. Yeah, man.
Yo, isn't that crazy
Go
about
phone?
recovery too? Things have changed in that nature of like, you know, over time. We don't talk about that a lot, man. We don't talk about how we get to where we are. You know, how finances change. How I didn't even know how to get a license in the beginning. You know, I forget about that stuff. I didn't know what a license was. How do I get it? I didn't know how to pay fines. I didn't know how to pay a bill. I didn't know nothing about credit, how to build credit. Like there's that stuff that we should discuss next time on too, man. I don't know how much time we got now, but
Well, we're already coming up on an hour.
they are certainly things that need to be discussed on how to get a license in recovery, how to build credit, how to get my life out of the halfway house. You know what I mean? Because especially in South Florida, a lot of people get stuck in that mode. You're paying $200 a month in rent. Like, how can you even save money when you're just getting out and you're making $15 an hour? You're working to live, you know?
You know what's happening now? Ever since COVID, we are seeing more and more clients on short-term and long-term disability for their addiction and alcoholism, which is okay on the front end, but then they're getting stuck in it. Like we got guys that and it's hard to talk sense to them. They're like, why would I get off disability to go get a job when I'm getting a paycheck? And it's because you're trying to build back into a life where you're a contributing member of society. But man, the whole COVID thing really threw a wrench in it. Like we used to probably, if out of 25 people back prior to 2020, maybe had like one or two clients on some sort of short-term disability or long-term disability. It was rare. Now, what, like over half our census at any given time?
What?
Yeah, it's no joke, man. And it keeps
No
people
way.
it keeps people from moving forward.
Yeah.
It's become like a major obstacle that we at Rock have had to figure out, like, okay, how do we convince this client to put an end to their short-term disability so they can move on with their life?
Oh, that's tough. How do you tell someone collecting disability that they're not disabled?
Very
legally.
I mean,
that's a tough spot.
Legally, I don't know, but what we do is we just say you're not disabled.
That's it. You just try to
you're not disabled.
Just try to guide them, man. That's all we can do anyway. It's like, yo, man, listen, I don't know what all that you're talking about is, but I do that with the MAT thing a lot. You know, I tell people, like, I don't know what your doctor's telling you, you know, but that's not recovery here, you know. Like your California recovery marijuana maintenance program doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a part. Do you really need that? Oh yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. I'm depressed. You got people, they're on every maintenance drug in the book. I'm on methadone, Suboxone, and marijuana maintenance. And also I got Xanax because I'm very anxious, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm clean now. It's like, what? Stop taking it. Yeah, man.
That stuff that doesn't make sense to me. Never will. I mean, honestly, it's
scary, but I don't know how it is here. But if you're, and this is the messed up thing about like working with like nonprofits and government funded stuff, is that's the plan that the government has. That's because of the people that are feeding them the information, which is big pharma. You know, these are the plans that they have, and anyone who's taking money from them has to fall in line with those plans. You can't get like we're like the Firm Foundation, faith-based, long-term, abstinence-based program, right? 12-step base, and they're like, this is what we're doing, and no one wants to give money for those reasons. You know, no one wants to help support what they're doing for those reasons. Now, I'm not saying no one, because they get a lot of support and, a lot of community support, but that's how it is now. If you are taking governments and grants but there's all these grants and stuff for, what do they call it? Harm reduction and recovery stuff, and they have all these grants to do those things, but none of them will go in the direction of, what we're doing, 12 steps.
No, yeah, it's it always comes back to me, follow the money. Like at the end of the day, and again, like we've discussed this on previous podcasts, like I'm not 100% anti MAT program, medically assisted treatment. Like it has its place. It has its client that fits that mold. It was a part of my experience.
Mine too.
But at the end of the day, like if you follow, like Matt was just saying, the pharmaceuticals, if taxpayer money, grants, goes to the pharmaceutical company to provide Suboxone or methadone or whatever it is, somebody's making money.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Like,
it's tough, man. It's tough because they're not just tough in the sense of like that they're doing that, but it's that way and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I could see you can't say multiple roads to recovery and like we talked about, the evidence-based thing last time I was here.
Yeah.
You can't say that, but then not go in our direction either, like having abstinence-based places, or detoxes that will detox you off of the MAT meds, like specified for those things. Let's specify places for people who want to be completely abstinent, not pushing it on people who don't know what the deal is. If I'm telling you should be abstinent, then a doctor's telling you shouldn't, you're going to listen to the doctor because you think I don't have an experience with it. But although you and I have an experience with those things, so it's not that it's a bad thing to have MAT. It's the fact that that's when it comes to government and the grant finding, they won't. It's almost like what we're doing is unheard of. It's ridiculous. Although what we're doing has been heard of and effective since the beginning. They want to go into, well, this is easier, and let's do this. And then I don't know who's pumping the information into them and letting them know that this is the only way and this is what we should be doing. But it is absolutely incorrect. There is our way too. And they should be throwing some money in that way. Can you imagine what would happen, Ben, if we had all these state-ran facilities opening up, abstinence-based programs, as well as, MAT is to detox off of the meds, what it was designed for to begin with.
Yeah.
You do MAT, like when I went to detox, they gave us Suboxone, and that was for 3 days. They gave us Suboxone 3 days, boom, that's it, you're done. There wasn't all this stay on it forever stuff or any of that. So, it's not a bad thing. It's just how they're utilizing it is bad, in my opinion.
No, and time will tell too. Like I've personally noticed, and I think we may have discussed this already last time you were on, but I've seen less push for Matt than I did in 2016, 2017, 2018.
Not in Delaware.
Yeah.
See, it's from area to area. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's great, and that is true too, because the Firm Foundation program, they go all over. They know people in different like cities, states, and all that stuff, and they know that there is places that aren't like that. So that's pretty cool that other areas, everybody's not jumping on board with that. Why? Because the evidence is showing that it's not working.
Well, yeah. Well, where I was going with it, time will tell. Like, methadone came and went.
Mm-hmm.
The belladonna treatment came and went.
Yep.
Suboxone will probably be, it's not going to permanently go anywhere, so to speak. It'll be appropriate for detox, stuff like that. But I think that even that is like the long term is phasing out, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, guys. I had to actually remove myself a couple of times.
Twice.
Jeez Louise. But, you guys are just rolling right along.
I'm not going to lie. I was getting really fearful that you weren't coming back because I've never closed out the show before. And I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. See,
inventory. Fear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this was fun.
I was in fear because I was like, did I say something wrong?
No, never. I didn't say anything.
Tom just left me.
That's all right.
I was scared, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that resentment makes my inventory every day. Tom and I shared an office downstairs.
Oh, here we
get
go.
this podcast thing, and all of a sudden one day he just ups and moves without saying a word.
He didn't even tell you?
Just relocated.
He didn't tell you he was moving out?
I'm like, dude, you used to sit across from me for years, staring me in the eyes every day, and all of a sudden you're gone.
But aren't you glad I'm up here? Because now we have this nice place to record.
Well, we could still have this nice place to record, and you could.
What would you do with Destiny now?
This is your office all by yourself?
Yeah.
This is a pretty big office. What are you doing here by yourself? I can see. I don't know why. I can see you doing pictures.
I do whatever I want
with the lighting and everything.
I walk in here at 8:30
You see him
a.m.
laying on the table.
I walk in at 8:30 a.m. He's banging EDM, listen to electronic music,
editing.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I was doing notes.
Yeah.
I was doing notes.
You look like a computer hacker.
Yep.
He's got his double monitor over there.
I get the most work done before 9 o'clock, 9:30 really.
Really?
Once people start, because listen, what I do with the editing and everything requires attention.
It does.
And if one person comes in, they have to talk for about something, and it's never a, short thing. I welcome it. Obviously I want people to come in and talk to me, but like this, for instance, we're going to wrap this up and then I'm going to have to go to town on it. And each episode between YouTube, the audio version, thumbnails, it's 2 to 3 hours like per episode, maybe more, depending on who the person that's on the podcast. You're easy because once you start talking, you like flow good. There's no ums and and buts, but some people it's like, oh my gosh, and you got to go through, cut all that stuff out and, make it sound relatively good. But this is an easy one.
So to tie that principle into recovery, Tom just says everything gets done early in the morning. Same reason we tell guys in early recovery and long-term recovery, first thing in the morning, take that inventory, say that prayer, because you start all the worldly clamor.
Oh man, invite God in first thing.
Yeah.
Remember I told you I was going to be 15 minutes late?
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes late because I hadn't meditated yet. And I don't leave the house no more, man. I'm like, I'm not going nowhere. I knew I had to get in the shower. I had a half hour to get here, and I had to get in the shower and meditate. And I was like, there's no way. And I just was like, I hope Ben's okay, And I was like, man, I have to. I can't start my day. Especially, there's different parts of meditation, but Wim Hof, and then I do some Wim Hof meditation, breathing meditation, then I'm conscious of 24 hours ahead. You know, what am I doing? What am I going to bring God in? Let me separate her? No, let me get rid of that thought. You know, I don't need to be around that, you know, or whatever the case may be. It's pretty cool.
Ben, you know Wim Hof?
No, I have no idea what that
You don't know who Wim Hof is?
No, do you?
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. Tom knows a little bit
Iceman.
of everything.
Oh, man, I'm ready to do some. I get cold
that
showers
dude I
every
seen
day.
on YouTube?
Ice bath.
Yeah.
Oh, I know who you're
I
talking
get
about.
ice shower. Well, I don't get ice baths, but I do get in a cold shower regularly. It is effective, you know. It's especially for, you know, us buff, fitness guys. You know what I'm saying?
That's
You got-
pinnacles of health.
You should, yeah. You know the health. We should be on Men's Health, by the way.
Team Impossible.
Shout out
Team Impossible Burger.
Impossible Burger, and put us on a Burger King commercial. We'll show you how fit you get eating Impossible Burgers.
All
I
right.
feel like today's
Oh,
episode
man.
was brought to you by Burger King.
We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, man.
All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on, man.
Anytime,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Anytime. The knife.
Glad to see the work you're doing in Delaware and the lives that you're impacting. And yeah, man, keep it up.
Yeah, man.
Ben, any
That's
final
all God.
thoughts?
No, I don't. I have no idea what we just talked about, but it's fun talking.
I think
about
it was a lot about inventory.
Yeah.
You know, this episode I think was more geared towards people that have some sobriety, you know, but in the end though too, like it was a good message of, well, especially what you're doing in Delaware, you know. I think this episode is more geared towards people that are in recovery or in sobriety or working a program that aren't really taking full advantage of the opportunity ahead of them.
or people that maybe have been bouncing around in and out of the rooms of AA or NA or whatever A.
Yeah.
And maybe hopefully they get to hear that at least Matt and I had an experience where we weren't getting a message. Went to a different kind of meeting,
Yeah.
big book studies, and they're like,
I look at these meetings like you have, you know, kind of like the Eminem song. I don't know the words, but you have one opportunity, and
You got one shot.
yeah,
Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
it is like, you know,
is.
you get these newcomers that come in, it's their very first meeting, and first experience that they have is going to determine whether or not they come back. Just like a restaurant.
That's
you know?
exciting.
You
That's
know?
exciting to have someone walk into a room and raise
Yeah.
their hand that that's their first meeting, and you're there and you know what the message is and you get to carry it.
Yeah.
So it is geared to that.
Yeah.
And that with this, I think that it is geared to exactly what you said. And, you know, don't miss what God has already done in your life, and don't miss that, you know, what he has already woken you up with. He absolutely has a purpose for you. And that purpose is much more than what you're giving yourself. If you are one of those gentlemen that sit back and try to do nothing, you know, and think that life is just going to be grand and get your little job in your house and not try to help other people. But God has an absolute purpose for you, and we get to be more purposeful than most people in the world. And that's the most incredible thing about this program.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in the end. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach out to myself, Tom, at realrecoverytalk.com, and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, what we want to do is help you
turn your mess into your message.
That is it. We will see y'all later.